this is some fire shit. This is why I love this show. This is why my favorite part about doing this show is bringing stuff that we find out years later that nobody fucking knew about at the time. So Shaq's gonna miss these 2 games here, right?
Yeah.
Against the Nets, who are going to see them in the NBA Finals, right? And the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
Right? So, an hour before game time, O'Neal sat on a table in the Lakers' tiny locker room. 2 sets of electrical wires running from a stimulation device to his wrist. He declined to talk about his new injury then, but after the game, after gruffly attempting to shoo away reporters, O'Neal said, "If Phil says Sunday, then I'll be back Sunday." Hold that thought. Earlier in the day, in a conversation with Kobe Bryant, O'Neal expressed optimism about his wrist and his toe. He told me he's going to be ready. I think there's pain there, but when we need a basket or need a big sequence of plays, he's going to be there. I'm not concerned. So, Shaq doesn't want to talk about the most likely because they're in a situation here where if they win these 2 games, they're going to be the 2nd seed, right? Possibly even a chance to get the 1st seed. If they get the 1st seed, they're trying to, and we find out 20 years later, that Phil Jackson and Shaq spoke before he missed those 2 games and talked about they wanted to avoid the Utah Jazz in the postseason.
I have one question. We watched the Sixers last night not play Harden, not play Embiid. Do you think there's any pull for these teams? The Bucks just jumped the Sixers for the 2. To rather have the 3 than the 2, because the 3 you're likely going to play the Cavs, and the 2 there's a chance you play the Nets. Do you think there's any chess moves here? Because the Sixers, I think, have swept the Cavs this year.
They're not thinking about
You're
that.
You're playing with fire if you lose.
Because thinking about that?
But right now they're
jockeying in the playoffs.
Who's thinking about that? Who's jockeying right now?
Because right now, let's say the Sixers fall to 4. They play Cleveland. They play Chicago. That's better than the Nets.
Shaq,
what do you think?
I played with a guy, Phil Jackson, that did that.
He did.
You notice how when we won all the championships, we never had to play Utah. But when we first got to L.A., Utah was the team that swept us.
Would he tell you about that in the locker room?
Yeah, tell me.
So he'd pull you aside?
Yeah, he pulled me and said, "Shaq, take these 2 games off, boom, 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 and then when you come back, I need you to get 40.
And as a competitor, how'd you feel about that?
I mean, the man had a great resume, so I listened.
Trust
and, for me, it was like getting rest. But I would...
Right? Mind you,
did he specify that season, though?
This is the only one that makes sense. I've done the research. Okay. I've looked at the games. This is the only one that makes sense. He missed 2 games at the end of a previous season, but the Jazz weren't in this spot to play them in the postseason in the first round.
Yeah.
Now, the Lakers games against the Jazz, they went 2-1 against Utah, but they were all extremely close games and games where Shaq and Kobe did not play very well.
Okay.
So 4-point wins here and then an 8-point loss on the 6th of right before we missed these games, right?
But it looked like Shaq averaged like 30-something points a game.
Well, this is Kobe.
Oh,
Shaq didn't play some of these games.
Oh, even better. It looked like the guy averaged like 30-something points a game.
Yes, but this is what I think Phil thought. I think this is important. This is what I think Phil thought. I think Phil thought, man, Kobe's averaging almost 40 against them, and we're only winning by 4 points. That's concerning. I don't want to see these guys in a postseason because it's too much up to chance. When we could go against teams like Seattle, that we beat pretty handedly during the regular season, or teams like different teams that he felt like we had a better advantage against, I think. Or a Portland team that they've been dominating. They've eliminated 4 out of the last 5 playoffs to this point.
And he's probably also looking at it as we'd be facing them early in the season. I mean, series when we still trying to get Shaq back into
So on Inside the NBA in the 21-22 season, Shaq, and I'm going to run this clip, where basically Shaq says, you know, Phil told me if I miss those 2 games, you just got to give me 40 when you come back. It's exactly what the man said. 20, almost exactly 20 years to the day.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And Shaq does come back. He does give him 40. They go out of these next 6 games, right? Six. They're 5-1, right?
Yeah. And
Shaq's gonna get 2 40-point games in here. Completely smash. Go to the line a bunch of times. 32 points a game, shooting 61%. So, what do you think about that?
In terms of the juxing for position kind of thing?
Yeah.
Personally, with me, I would look at I feel like that's like bitch shit. And I'm remaining consistent because I thought the same thing was happening last year with the Clippers. You always got to throw them in, Lindsay. You're welcome.
So what season is that?
The 2021
with the Clippers?
Yeah, the Clippers were doing that so they won't face the Lakers in the first round. So, and I thought similar. So I think that's weird, like, because what Dwayne Wade was saying in that conversation with Shaq, he was saying like it's such a like a loser mentality, and I agree with that 100%. Like, you got to think that you could beat anybody in order to be a champion. I mean, there is ways that, like, Phil Jackson was probably thinking we probably could beat them, but why go through the harder path when we've been dominating Portland this whole for the last.
Shaq's kind of hurt.
Yeah.
Kobe's playing okay. Kobe's playing pretty well, but like, why are we, to your point, why are we let's take the path of least resistance.
It's better to be play smarter, like not harder kind of thing. So.
I think if Shaq's totally healthy, they care significantly less.
Yeah, for sure.
But it worked, I think it worked.
No, it definitely
for sure.
Did. I mean, they destroyed Portland. So.
It's so funny, and we'll get into that in a minute, but it's so funny that, and you know how I know, to answer one of your questions from before, you know how I know it's this year 100%?
Yeah.
Because going back, you can read that Shaq was trying to avoid talking about it. And I bet your ass he was trying to avoid talking about it because that injury wasn't necessarily legit. He just told Phil, take the time to rest. Or Phil just told Shaq, just take the time to rest and I'll see you when you get back.
Yeah.
And give me 40. And he did. He did exactly that. Played 41 minutes, gave him 40.
They probably pretty much put themselves in a... Well, the funny part is they beat Utah. So, so that makes sense because that will help them. Because I'm just thinking, like...
They destroyed Utah. They blasted them.
Yeah, they then go on to go 5-1. That's one of those things that kind of makes you think, like why feel so nervous about it? But I mean, they go on to go 5-1 after the 2-game skid. So it's like it's not like they were not trying to win either, kind of thing.
I just think once they realized they weren't going to see Utah, I think they focused. Like, they got.
But I can understand telling Shaq that, but you cannot. There's no way in hell they told Kobe that.
Well, that's why he played.
No, I know. Yeah, no, I know that. But I'm saying like
the man played during these 2 games.
But no, like, because you just mentioned they knew they weren't going to play Utah, so then they probably just started like playing really great kind of thing, or like
he probably didn't tell Kobe. I wouldn't be surprised.
There's no way in hell they did. There's no way in hell, because that would have been a story at some point. Kobe would have told that story and been like, hell no, I like he said that, and I was like, fuck no, or something like that.